Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live event, the 2024 State of AI for Asset and Wealth Management, Trends, Use Cases, and Best Practices. I'm Andrea Sala, and I take care of communication and research at MDOTM. Now, as you may notice, today is a little bit different from our usual formats. It's not like any other monthly episode that we have. Today is less of a webinar and more of a chat, more of a deep dive into industry data, some insights, and some facts that will shape our understanding on the transformative impact of AI in the investments industry. Now, over the past few weeks, we have gone through some reports, publications, and surveys for the AI and investments landscape in 2024. And as we said at the beginning of this new year, well, we find ourselves sort of a turn point, right? And we ask ourselves, how is the industry navigating these changes and what can we expect from 2024? Today, we're here to help the executives watching us, cut through the noise and comprehend the fundamental changes that the industry is currently undergoing. And guiding us through this exploration, we have two distinguished experts here today. First of all, we have Peter Zangari, who has a wealth of experience in the industry. Thank you so much for being here today. Peter is our head of Americas at M.M. And secondly, we have Tommaso Migliore, who is none other than M.M CEO and co-founder, and the perfect person to be here at SAY since you're witnessing this AI revolution firsthand. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Andrea. Good to be here.
How are you doing?
It's great. I love the studio.
Absolutely.
Love your studio setup and the blue lights.
Yes.
And I'm so happy for this new format that Peter could be joining us, a great add-on to M.M. And perfect person, to have this industry perspective, a 360-degree view of all the topics that we're going to be having today.
Absolutely. It's great to have Peter on board. You kind of been part of this revolution since, I don't want to point to your age, but
You just did.
but I just did. I realized I just did. Yeah, but since the very early models in quantitative finance to now AI. So great. Very, very happy that you're on board.
Very happy. But great. I think we should, good point to get started. And before we dive, into the details, insights, and all of the numbers and facts, I think we should set the stage by gaining a deeper understanding of how 2024 is unfolding through the eyes of the industry, which I think Peter is perfect for that. So from data analytics to financial technology, Peter, how have you seen the evolution of technology coming closer into the investment process, and how has it evolved to deliver value to the final client?
Sure. I think that when we consider that question, all right, there's multiple dimensions to it, right? There's different ways, like any industry, different ways that technology is influencing the investment process. Just to call out a few, whether you look at research, how research is conducted, if you look at what's often called the product management role, the commercial product management role, in terms of how do clients generate and produce data, reports that they use to communicate to their clients. That's been changing tremendously, that process. And then also, how do investors create performance, right? That's also been, greatly affected, greatly impacted in my observations, over the past 25, 30 years. But if you look at what's happened and what's happening over the past 5 years or so with the implementation or the incorporation of artificial intelligence into the investment process or into investment management more broadly, you see a relatively large impact of technology within the investment industry.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think we've seen even like the top reports today, for example, Deloitte mentioning that it brings higher alpha generation, better, customer experience, and it transcends beyond the investment process, even bringing a higher operational efficiency at an organizational level, But I think you've mentioned, there are different technologies that were evolving, throughout time. What would you say is the difference that AI can bring, the value add that it can truly bring into the investment process?
Well, I think there's a few areas, but I'll just follow up on the term you just used, operational efficiency, right? And we know, especially large asset managers, right, have been really focused on how do I make my operation more efficient? How do I do what I need to do better, but at a lower cost? And the one way to achieve that, or an important input to help you achieve that, is through incorporating tools like artificial intelligence that can not only replicate what one may do in the organization, but do it better and do it faster. Okay, and that's not to say, because sometimes in these discussions, there's discussions around replacement, right? Replacing people. But that's not the point here. The point is that how do you do something better so that those resources that are implemented today, used today, could go on and do other more value-added things within the organization?
Absolutely. I think that, it's much more enhancing rather than
Yes.
than replacing. If we look at at a general level, at a high level, I think it's always good to understand the element of artificial intelligence, right? There's two great family of artificial intelligence: analytical AI, what we can call analytical AI, and generative AI. Now, these two technology, they learn in the same way. It's always the same concept of learning from example. I'm oversimplifying here. But the idea is that the analytical AI is able to understand patterns in data, solve the equation, so it's used to compute. Now, the computational part is really important in the production side of creating a portfolio, creating a research insight, understanding certain market behavior, certain dynamics, finding operational alpha in portfolio construction. But then what about the generative AI? Generative AI does a similar thing, learns again from example, but then it uses this example to create something new, like new text, new image, new information. So where does generative AI plays a role in all of this is actually that it's very interesting, because the best use cases is that it helps to understand what the models are doing behind, how the portfolio is behaving. So it's a powerful tool to decompose and simplify information into a digestible format. And when we talk about operational alpha, operational efficiency, we'll know that in finance, there's always twofold. One is the investment research, the investment insights, and then portfolio construction. The other one is, how do I convert this into an explainable concept that someone else can understand, right? Finance is based on trust. You got to trust the institution, you got to trust the investment process, you got to trust the portfolio manager. And the reason you trust this person is because you understand this person. Yeah. So without the understandability part, AI is just useless. So it's really important to understand how the computational part and the generative part really come together to create something superior, and that is really transformative in the industry across the board.
I could just follow up to what you just said, because I spent a lot of time earlier in my career on performance attribution, right? And in quantitative investing, just given the way that portfolios are constructed, it's difficult to explain, with good accuracy, how did your portfolio generate its performance, right? Basic question, but oftentimes difficult to explain. And, that's often very unsettling to the client, who is expecting you as the professional investor to explain its performance. And I could tell you, in doing my research over the past year or so, one of the things that really caught my attention, and where I really started to say, okay, I think there's something really important there, is to see how generative AI can help explain investment performance, especially again for portfolios that are put together in a way that have, thousands of assets, tens of factors driving performance and things like that. And listen, we're still early days, but that doesn't dissuade me from thinking that, going forward, investment managers across the globe are going to use these types of tools around generative AI to help them understand performance and then being able to explain it to their clients.
Yes, definitely. And relating back to this aspect of explainability, like even Deloitte foresaw for 2024, they are imagining a customer asking the names of their top drivers of alpha in their portfolio, and they are predicting that generative AI will be able to explain such drivers in a matter of seconds. I mean, it's something that it's already happening. Like, we don't even have to imagine.
I love that Deloitte is imagining, and not just ourselves, but companies are actually doing it. It's live technology that it's in production. And to the point of Deloitte and the point that Peter raised, I think it's important to understand one thing. the industry, the asset management industry, is going through a massive change. And this change is been brought mostly by passive investing and digitalization. And this is affecting wealth management, asset management across the board. Why? Because suddenly, as a private investor, as an institutional client even, why should I pay a fee to an asset manager where I can just buy myself a couple of ETFs and basically get the same result, right? But at a way cheaper cost and with probably a better user experience. So the asset and wealth management industry, to stay relevant and to provide value to the customer, has to add something more. And that something more is really being able to deliver something closer to the preference of the client. But to do that, you got to be able to do it at scale. And that's the complexity that before AI, it was very complicated to achieve. Why? Because if we think about it, an asset management, a wealth management company has one or a couple of investment committee or people making high-level investment decision. That needs to be converted if we believe the promise of more personalization, the vision of more personalization. That has to be converted into thousands of portfolio that need to incorporate both the insights coming from the investment team, from the research, and the preference from the client. Now that's a typical nonlinearity problem of nonlinearity math, where traditional models, the only way they can solve it is by tweaking the constraint. But that's a manual thing that you need somebody always checking back on the constraint, manually controlling the output. So it's not immediate. AI actually, the analytical part, can actually solve this problem much, much better. But that's not enough. As you said, Peter, that's not enough. Why? Because you can never build a portfolio and just say, this is a portfolio, get it. You got to be able to explain why that portfolio is positioned a certain way and what we can expect from that portfolio. And that's the generative part that comes in. That portfolio by portfolio can decompose, understand, and convert that into a simplified insights that anyone can digest. And that's why it's revolutionary, really.
Yeah, listen, and talking about revolutionary, if I just use a simple example, and what I think about is that, we are now in a world, the very beginning, and soon will be, in the middle, in terms of as an investor, explaining in natural language, what you want your portfolio to do. What exposure do you want it to take? How much risk do you want it to take? Where do you want it to invest? In natural language, explain it, right? Think of ChatGPT, for example, right? And then, the computer, the algorithm will take that and it will generate a set of parameters, which will then be used in a program that builds a portfolio. It produces that portfolio produces performance, right, in terms of a simulation or a test. You analyze that, and then if you don't like it, you can ask it to change accordingly. But you could just think about the relationship between the human, the person, the portfolio manager in this example, and the computer, the algorithm that creates the portfolio in a much more natural or interactive way.
Yes, definitely. And it's sort of as you explained, the person puts in the inputs and it's the AI that does the heavy lifting. And this is where, we really see the value add of human plus AI because, AI is the one that takes on the mundane tasks. And then we have the human that instead of doing all these calculations that the AI can focus on tasks that have greater value, which therefore leads to greater operational efficiency,
Absolutely.
as we previously mentioned.
Look, Andrea, you raise a very important point because oftentimes, I get asked, will the AI replace me? Will the AI replace every human? When are we? How far are we from having just computers inside of banks and asset management company? You open the door to just a bunch of laptops talking to one another. Where is the role of the human? I don't think at all that the human is disappearing from the picture. Okay, we said at the beginning it's an enhancement, but it's important to understand one thing. If we look at what AI can cover from an investment perspective to improve performance and results, there are roughly three areas. One is investment research. Second one is portfolio construction. Third one is portfolio reporting, decomposition, etc. Now, if we think about the investment research, right, where the AI can look at millions of data points, decompose, understand complex pattern, one could think that there is no more value for the human. And I strongly disagree with this statement. Why? Because human and technology at least at the level at which the technologies today, work much better together than just the technology or just the human. We just look at information in different ways. And so there is value, and we've built MDOTM, which is a company that just uses data and technology, but we see value into the human input, combining it with the technology. It's almost like, if we think about a Formula One car, the pilot itself or the computer itself, actually the best thing is the combination of the two. Because the human is able to capture different things, one-off things much better than a technology can. The technology can capture deeper things, more subtle, much better than a human. That's why there is a combination. And it's important to understand how much better compared to, for example, in portfolio construction, compared to traditional methodologies such as like a Letterman and frontier sampling, etc. Analytical AI is able to have as an additional input the technology and the human insights and combine it to a greater output. I don't know if you've seen this, even because you really build a lot of this technology early on, if you really capture this change in the technology and the experience of the client.
Yeah, well, definitely the technology, but to just emphasize the point you made, look, it starts with the person.
Yeah, it always does.
Right? The term that, over the past year has become very popular is prompt.
Yeah.
Right? You have prompt engineers now. And what is that? That is a human prompts, right, the algorithm to do something based off
Absolutely.
of some idea or some concept, what have you. So that is absolutely essential and key, and is the example in terms of how humans interact with artificial intelligence. Another term is co-pilot, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if you look at the investment space, where you'll have professional investors, their Uber assistant, right? Their super assistant is going to be that artificial intelligence. Yeah. And that's how I think the challenge to professional investors is to figure out how do they best utilize the artificial intelligence to make them a better investor.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And talking about how to better utilize, artificial intelligence, maybe, Peter, you've seen a wide array of investors leveraging this technology. Could you maybe talk a little bit about where exactly are they leveraging this AI in order to become a better investor, as you said?
Well, I think it's in various areas, and Tommaso touched on, them a bit. So, look, first of all, it's around, exploring ideas. As an investor, you have an idea about how you can generate performance. So the next step in the process is, how do you explore that? Okay, how do we explore that in an efficient way, right? Where you don't go down a rabbit hole and spend a bunch of money and end up nowhere. So, artificial intelligence and the technology around that can help managers have an idea and then test that idea. Mm-hmm. And it does that more effectively because the artificial intelligence can say, given that idea, these are the different data sets that are available that you may want to consider, right, to test that. Okay, so now what could have taken months to do, even longer, right, at a high cost, can be done in a much shorter period of time, most likely at a lower cost, right? Yeah. So now you could start to build a strategy, all right? And you can use artificial intelligence, going back to what we said, to say, here's the problem I need you to solve, okay? Mm-hmm. Machine solves that, you look at the output, and then it generates performance. And then the last step in the process, where you see AI playing a role, and it relates to what came out of the report that you referenced, is how do you create reports in a way that, again, are at high scale, mm-hmm. they're at relatively low cost, and they're user friendly, mm-hmm. meaning the end client can look at those reports and not a table of numbers.
Exactly.
Which is historically. No.
Something in human language.
We're moving from a table of numbers, right, which just disorient people at times, right? Yeah. One can be happy that they produced a big table of numbers, but to the end users who has a limited amount of time, that's not very helpful. Give me a paragraph, right? Tell me a story that is backed by the data and the analytics, but is relatively easy to digest, all right?
Yeah.
That's where the technology that we're talking about here is going to get you to.
Definitely. I mean, and this relates to, well, at the beginning when Tommaso said that the true value, this is where generative and analytical AI overlap. This is sort of the cherry on top that we said that it's that aspect of explainability and, well, it comes back to that automated reporting, right? And, well, you've seen many companies already integrating this within their processes, both of you. And how are you seeing this integration taking place today?
So that's a very interesting question, because it opens two things. One is integrating it from a user perspective, and I think that Peter kind of gave us a very clear view on how this is happening on a day-to-day life. Then there's also the technology integration, because all of these technology, of course, to maximize their potential, they need to be fully integrated in systems that are out there, in order so that they can really simplify the day-to-day task of everyone's job, right? It's very important to understand how these technologies tend to be developed. These technology usually have not so much legacy code, so they are usually integrated through APIs, and they tend to sit at the top of existing system. This is not just us, but this is an industry trend. Just because nobody wants to come in and say, look, completely replace your software infrastructure, that's super costly, takes years to do, huge budget. Before you see your return on investment, it takes a long time. So most of these technology, when we talk about analytical and generative AI, can actually sit on top of existing legacy code, and they just can pick the useful bit to deliver value. And I think that when we talk about delivering value, it's really important to understand that the process on which this happen is very much coded in certain use cases that have been proved to be successful. We're talking about combining the expected return, the variance and covariance matrix within existing portfolio construction system. We're talking about integrating optimizers within existing portfolio management tool, so that you can drag the information of the portfolio, have the insight of the research coming in, and create rebalancing proposal for thousands of portfolio, and then generate the explainability part on why this change is happening in a paragraph in English, where you decompose these tables of numbers, as you said, Peter, into a paragraph that just explains why, that tells a story why, and then spit back this information once it's been accepted into their legacy system. So that's how the integration is mostly taking place. So it's quite lean integration, does not require to completely change the software infrastructure that one has.
Well, that is great that you can actually pick it. Doesn't necessarily mean that one has to completely change everything inside within an organization, but it can actually be a smooth integration.
Absolutely. And I mean, there are two trends, because of course there is one, let's say, more longer time frame trend, which is everybody in the industry is looking to replace their software infrastructure into something that it's more dynamic across the board. We've seen the phenomena of data lakes, such as Snowflake, and we've seen Aladdin playing a big role, Mundi Technologies as well, to compete in that space. So the space of mainframe technology is a longer trend that started a few years back. So that I don't want to say that that's not happening, but the problem is that when we talk about artificial intelligence, this is a much faster change, right? So you cannot afford to have the two things combined. It's almost, you've got your main infrastructure, and from the AI part, you gotta find solution that you're able to plug in and deliver on their promises on a much quicker time frame. Otherwise, you're locked into this. I committed to a project, and then for the next 3 years, I gotta wait till I see something. Was it the right one? Was it not the right one? Exactly. That's not really how you bring innovation to the marketplace, I think. No.
Exactly, yeah. Bringing innovation, it's got to start from within, and, well, it has to be a seamless integration. That's the most important part.
Seamless as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's always a dirty job. It's always a dirty job, but you want to the least dirty possible. Let's put it this way.
Right.
Well, and this integration is sort of like triggering this AI revolution in the investments industry. We are seeing it taking it by storm. And this is going to be an ongoing thing. It's taking place at the moment. And well, we are expecting it to still evolve. So I would like to ask you, could you maybe give us a time frame for this revolution to fully unfold?
As you said, this is at least my point of view. Then curious to see what you see, Peter. Again, we're talking about the phenomena of just the AI part. And it's because it's so transformative, there's going to be, I think, 2 phases. 3 phases. One, we already passed the first one, which was the experimental phase. I think in 2020, 2021, 2022, that was a lot of the exploration phase. The first use cases, the first custom application. 2023 has been, I think, the most transformative year because we went from the exploration phase into the application phase. 2024 will be the implementation phase. So I'm seeing about 2 years in which we're going to see a rapid evolution of different use cases and techniques. Some of them have already been proven to be successful. We talked about the automated reporting, the customized, the personalized reporting and portfolio construction. The support to the investment research and insights. And in my view, it's going to take about 2 years where we get to a new equilibrium, where we can start to project at a longer time frame, where we can see we can build organization around these technologies. Whereas now it's much more like finding the use cases so we can compete in the market. So one can compete in the market. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah. No, listen, I think I agree in terms of the timeline, and one never knows in terms of how long things will take, and usually a lot longer than one thinks.
Yeah.
But I think that if you look at just what's happened over the past few years, you went from not even thinking about AI within an investment organization. Some have. Look, some investment teams have been incorporating this type of technology into their investment process for some time. Sometimes probably called data science rather than AI. But today, what you see organizations across the globe, over the last year and a half, what have you, to say, okay, what is this AI? What do I need to know about it? Who do I need to hire? Right, to help me understand AI, and then where in the investment process, where within my company should I best utilize AI? All right, that's not those aren't easy questions to answer, right? Because you think about it, understanding the problem, which often takes, in terms of how it's relevant to you, takes time. Okay, then hiring people, right? That takes time, the right people to work on the problem, and then the third part is the solution. So all that has happened and is happening, over the last 18 months, 2 years. Okay, very short period of time. But having said that, a lot has happened in a short period of time. Yes. And when you think about that, and you think about the timeline that Tommaso just laid out, I think that we're in a period now of that application, that implementation, and then with that we'll learn more. And then we'll figure out how we collectively in the investment industry to say, how can we best utilize artificial intelligence?
Yes.
To add just one thing, I think that in all of this transition and change, I don't know if you guys agree with me on this one, but it's almost that the slower element of the equation is the human. Because we gotta, as people, we gotta learn how to work in this new environment that is changing so fast. Probably one of the fastest change in the industry, not just in the financial industry, but in the world. Yeah. And so we have to adapt to this change on our day-to-day basis. So that also will represent a little bit of a dragging factor of this change, of course.
Definitely. And this aspect of adaptation turns back to what you said. We're no longer in this initial integration phase, but in 2024, we're moving more along towards more mature applications. To explain just a bit better this, it's happening also because the world of asset and wealth managers has always been a world of very personalized technology, custom made with few products, right? More and more, this solution, and this is not just the AI part. We've seen you guys at MSCI have been doing this over the last decade probably, but we've seen a shift from custom products into a custom solution, software solution, into
companies that have been able to create products around these complicated custom solution. Of course, these solutions are modular, so they offer that personalization element, but these are products that can evolve and can create value. This is further happening with AI. Why this is, completely transformative? Because suddenly it's no longer that I have to make a project, decide what I need, and then build it, wait for someone to build it and see the value, but you can actually test it out much faster. Much faster. You can really explore the use case. As Peter said, it takes time internally to understand what you really need, but then you don't have to build it or use different piece of technology to do it. There are already products out there that are able to deliver at least a large portion of it. So you can integrate, test it out, see if it adds value, measure return on investment, et cetera, and then commit on that change.
Definitely. And well, I think that is a good point to wrap up our conversation today. Well, first of all, thank you so much to both of you. I think, well, you contributed so much to the conversation, and the facts and industry data that we covered was super helpful for our viewers. Well, from, the AI explosion that we mentioned at the beginning that happened last year to, well, what we are expecting for this upcoming 2024. For our viewers, for the new year, we revamped our website. We've uploaded all of this research that we mentioned today. It's all on there if you'd like to, discover a little bit more. Some things weren't mentioned here today, so you're more than welcome to check it out. And if you have any other questions, you can or write in the comments below or reach out to us. We can start a great conversation. Now, Tommaso and Peter, thank you so much.
Looking forward to 2024. It's good.
It
Exciting year.
So nice having you here today, especially for this new format, which I am so excited for this year since, well, our monthly episodes are going to be way more interesting, I believe. And thank you so much for being a part of the session. And for our viewers, stay tuned as we continue to discover the evolving role of AI in investments.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.